Cargo ships sit idle at sea. From the ports of Shanghai to the shores of California, a bottleneck is building. Amazon is canceling orders that haven't even reached American soil. China isn't speaking, it's acting. What's unfolding isn't just a typical trade spat. It's a deliberate, calculated disruption of America's economic lifelines. And where does the impact strike hardest? Right where Americans feel it most. At the checkout counter, on their car payments, and across every major industry that fuels the U.S. economy. On April 3rd, 2025, China quietly issued an order. All state-affiliated airlines were to suspend new deliveries of Boeing aircraft indefinitely. No press briefings, no televised accusations, just silence. Yet within 48 hours, Boeing's market value had dropped by $28.4 billion. According to Bloomberg, the move froze 84 aircraft deliveries scheduled for the second and third quarters, including the critical 737s and 787 Dreamliners, aircraft Boeing was counting on to bounce back from post-pandemic setbacks. But the issue wasn't about aircraft specs. A leaked memo from China's Ministry of Commerce, obtained by the South China Morning Post, described the action as a precise retaliation against rising U.S. tariffs. Boeing, once a proud symbol of American industrial strength, is now facing its steepest international sales decline in over 2 decades. This isn't just policy, said Scott Kennedy from the Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's pressure applied with precision against a vulnerable American icon. As Chinese airlines pivoted to Airbus, its stock surged 11.2% in Frankfurt. Why Boeing? Because in economic warfare, symbols matter. Boeing represents U.S. leadership, and now its vulnerability has become a strategic message. Escalate further, and we'll exploit your softest points. This wasn't the first shot. On April 1st, the Trump administration imposed a sweeping 145% tariff on over $300 billion worth of Chinese goods, a move the Wall Street Journal likened to turning a scalpel into a sledgehammer. Days later, shipping data revealed a stunning collapse. Outbound freight from China to the U.S. plunged by 47% in just 1 week. Shanghai's ports reported over 71,000 containers stuck, some for more than 10 days. In California, West Coast ports buckled. At the port of Los Angeles, congestion soared to pandemic-era levels, with 27 vessels waiting offshore and unloading delays stretching up to 4 days. The cost of shipping a 40-foot container from China to Long Beach surged from $1,950 to $6,820, a 250% increase in 10 days. Yet the delays weren't just logistical. They bred uncertainty. Chinese shipping firms began pausing deals mid-negotiation, blaming tariff instability. As one logistics director put it, "You can't price a shipment when the rules change halfway across the ocean." In trying to pressure Beijing, Washington inadvertently throttled its own supply lines. By April 6, China's top 5 freight companies, including Zadie and Costco Shipping, halted most U.S.-bound bookings, citing the legal and financial risks of unpredictable tariffs. But the deeper truth? Exporters couldn't afford to gamble. Ship at a loss or not at all. In Dongguan, a key electronics manufacturing hub, over 1,200 small factories had gone quiet by April 10th. A supplier for Five Below and Target said, "Our goods are packed and labeled, but the freight company canceled. We don't know when or if they'll move." The numbers confirmed the crisis. U.S. Customs data showed a 34% drop in shipments from China during the first half of April. To the average American shopper, shelves may seem full, but behind the scenes, the pipeline is running dry. And this isn't just about cheap imports. Major U.S. retailers are in damage control mode. On April 7th, Amazon Supply Chain Division advised sellers to pause all incoming shipments from China. A day later, Five Below canceled $67 million worth of in-transit goods, over 11% of its expected inventory. "We can't pay triple for items already under pressure," said CEO Joel Anderson. This isn't just a supply issue, it's a crisis of confidence. For companies that rely on high-volume, low-margin inventory, canceling shipments mid-transit is a drastic and costly move. But selling overpriced goods to budget-conscious consumers is riskier still. Consumer confidence plummeted to 75.1 in April, its lowest since mid-2022. Back-to-school inventory is delayed, summer shelves are bare, and stores are turning to domestic suppliers. But that fix is temporary and expensive. The crisis has now hit America's manufacturing core. On April 11th, Ford halted production of its F-150 Lightning in Michigan, missing microchips from Shenzhen. GM slowed battery module production in Tennessee by 60%. In just 1 week, over 41,000 U.S. vehicles weren't built. $1 billion production shortfall. Stellantis warned that the shortage could persist into summer. Auto assembly lines don't run on weeks. They run on hours. One missing $12 chip can idle an entire plant. Despite diversification efforts, the average U.S. car still relies on 24 Chinese components. Some plants are now stripping finished vehicles for parts, a desperate move not seen since COVID. But this isn't pandemic, it's a power play. Between April 1st and 14th, shipping a container from China to the U.S. went from $2,000 to over $7,300. Stellantis raised prices on hybrid models by up to 8% in 1 week. Ford hiked the price of its Mustang Mach-E by $1,200 mid-shipment. Used car prices spiked 4.1%, the sharpest rise since the 2021 chip crisis. This isn't inflation. It's design. Dealerships slashed inventory by 30%. Sticker shock is back, and this time it's engineered. But can these rising costs be reversed? Shifting supply chains away from China sounds ideal, but in practice it's chaos. Vietnam's ports hit 94% capacity by April 12th, causing 6-day delays. India relies on trucks for 60% of freight, doubling delivery times. In Mexico, border wait times jumped over 12 hours. Tesla moved battery production to Mexico, then had to lease warehouse space in Arizona to escape border gridlock. Apple suppliers in India showed defect rates 14% higher than Chinese counterparts. The factories are moving, yes, but the cracks are showing. This isn't clean substitution. It's fragmentation. Then came the next blow. On April 12th, Beijing restricted exports of dysprosium and terbium, rare earths critical to EVs and military gear. The U.S. depends on China for 78% of these materials. Lockheed Martin warned that lead times for missile components jumped from 14 to 22 weeks. Ford cited shortages of high-strength magnets. It wasn't full embargo, just enough to hurt. Even GM admitted, there's no replacement fast or cheap enough to fill the gap. This was a scalpel, not a sledgehammer, a deliberate chokehold on industries that can't pivot fast enough. So what now? Automakers are adapting. Tesla is shifting Model 3 production to Berlin. Toyota is redesigning 2026 hybrids to reduce chip needs. Stellantis is moving U.S.-bound production to Mexico, at least temporarily. But it all comes at a price. New platforms, new labor, new contracts. Timelines are stretching by 4 to 6 months. The supply chain isn't recovering. It's mutating, and not in America's favor.